And joining us now, great to welcome in, has written really a fascinating book for anybody who's been a fan of variety shows on television. It's called Fade Up 26, the movers and shakers of variety television. We're joined by a man who's produced a fair share of great variety shows himself out in L.A. today. Steve Binder joined us by telephone. And Steve, good to talk with you. How are you today?
Doing fine, Doug. Pleasure to talk to you.
Yeah, great to have a chance. When Jeff gave us the opportunity to talk to you and I had a chance to read through the book, I was one of those folks that kind of caught the tail end of the variety television, I guess, at its popularity, late 60s and into the 70s, but kind of a fan of it anyway, and gone back and watched a lot of the old great shows you can find from the 50s and 60s on YouTube, but I miss that type of television. It's not around like it used to be.
Well, that's what really inspired me. I've been, aside from my professional career in the entertainment business, I've been an adjunct professor at the University of Southern California for over, 2 or 3 decades,
right,
teaching and directing or producing course. And I really didn't feel comfortable bringing any textbooks into the class that really related to my experiences in the entertainment business. So, I had the opportunity. I was chairing a panel of college professors that the Academy of Television Arts and Sciences brings in every year. They bring in about 25 professors from all over the country to kind of bring them up to date to take back to their individual colleges or universities or states in terms of what's really going on in the heartbeat of the entertainment industry in Hollywood and Los Angeles. And so I had a panel of Emmy-winning directors in this particular case, and we spoke in front of these college professors, and next thing you know, one of them from the University of Indiana at Pennsylvania, Mary Beth Liedman, who is got a few master degrees, she's got a doctorate, and she said, "Have you ever thought of writing a book?" And I said, "Yeah, I have, actually. Why don't we stay in touch after the seminar's over?" And we did. And the first thing we came up with was an idea of doing a history of Emmy-winning directors and producers in variety television. And I think Lorne Michaels, who is, the executive producer and creator of Saturday Night Live, did one of our interviews and a blurb which said, "I'm flattered that our kind of variety television is getting this kind of attention." It's true, because we've been sort of the catch-all of, every other genre. And so it turned out that it took us 5 years to do this book, and it was interesting working with Mary Beth, who's 3,000 miles away from California, but we worked very, very well together. One of the prerequisites of the book was that of the 25 peers that I didn't get anybody turning me down, but all contributed to the book, and we said no Skyping, no phone calls, etc. To be a participant, you have to literally sit down with Mary Beth for 3 hours and in person, face-to-face, talk about your career. And the key to the book is her class at Indiana University prepared 15 questions for all of us to answer. And it was kind of like, I don't know if you remember an old movie out of Japan called Rashomon, where
Sure.
the murder mystery and the witnesses all saw it a different way.
Right.
And even though all these 25 peers of mine, of producers and directors of every show you've probably ever seen for 5 decades or more contributed, is that it really was interesting, because I knew them all socially for my entire career, but I didn't know what they did. I never was on their stages when they were directing actors or singers or dancers, and so it was fascinating to kind of put the book together, edit it, go over their 3 or 4 hour interviews with Mary Beth, and I learned so much, and it's very, very funny. I mean, we have people like George Schlatter, who created Laugh-In, who's one of the funniest guys on the planet, talking about his experiences. And the way we all approached, we were not given the questions in advance until we actually were face-to-face with Mary Beth. I participated, so I'm the 26th. And just reminiscing and talking about how you got in the industry, what shows did you work on, what happened behind the scenes that's fresh in your mind, what is your experience and definition of excellence in variety television and so forth. So I think it's a great read, not just for we started out. There's another version of the book for academia, which is a textbook for colleges and universities. But the publisher, who's primarily an academic publisher, Kendall Hunt, was so excited about reading the book themselves that they decided to put out a second version specifically for the general public. If you watched television, if you love the early days of Sid Caesar and Steve Allen and Milton Berle and up to the contemporary of the live production of The Wiz and everybody who did those shows is in the book practically. All the guys and gals who did the Emmys, the Grammys, the Tonys, the Oscars. I mean, we're all in there, and we're all talking about those shows. And I think the general public will really enjoy reading, kind of looking through the keyhole behind the scenes.
And my uncle, he was a singer, a professional singer. Was with the Lambs Club. Worked a lot in that early days of television. He was on a lot of the shows. Perry Como, Milton Berle, and Ed Sullivan a couple of times. He always would tell great stories because back then those shows were done really live. I guess maybe they started using tape maybe later in the 1950s, but they were harrowing times, but a lot of fun, he said. But
yeah, I was in the business before tape was even invented. So I started with a show called Soupy Sales, and went from there to Steve Allen for 2 years. I did the Westinghouse show on the West Coast. Then I got into all kinds of specials with my first one was with Leslie Uggams, who was very popular from the old Mitch Miller show on television. She was starring on Broadway at the time in Hallelujah Baby. Then I did a Petula Clark, Harry Belafonte special, which broke the color line in primetime variety specials, where they physically touched one another, which became an international news story in Time
which is hard to believe. That was a huge controversy.
Exactly. And then I went straight from there. I did the Elvis comeback special in '68, and without Petula and Harry, I probably would have never even been offered the Elvis show. So I've had this amazing timing and luck and career when someone who never even thought I'd get into the entertainment business and grew up in L.A. and had was not born in a trunk. I had no relatives in the business, nobody that I knew other than somebody I went to high school was a assistant editor when he graduated high school, went straight to Paramount and started working on Star Trek. And he's the one who said, Steve, if you want to meet a lot of pretty girls, you should try and get a job on a studio lot. I ended up in the mailroom at KABC, a local station in Los Angeles. It's an affiliate of the ABC network. So that whet my appetite from then on. Most people, they go to work and they can't wait to get off to go have fun. I could honestly say of all of my career and all the shows I've done and film and so forth, I hate to get off work because that's when I'm waiting to wake up the next morning and go right back to work. I love it so much.
Well, what made those shows so great, and they're even better now when you look back at them because it was kind of a history lesson in a sense, what was popular at the time. You look back at old like Dean Martin shows, or even Ed Sullivan. The top rock acts were on his show at the time. It's fun to look back at them too. They hold up, many of them.
Well, you can't move into the future unless you know your past, and I'm a great believer. I mean, that when I taught for all these years at the university, my textbook was I used to joke about it, but it was basically how to win friends and influence people, Dale Carnegie. Sure. But I would have given anything to have a book like Fade Up to to expose to students. And I'm very happy that this book is a textbook as well. The textbook obviously is much more expensive. We put this one out, which is a hardcover, and it's only $29.99, and it's got all the. I think Tommy Smothers of the Smothers Brothers really nailed it. I asked Tommy to do the foreword, and he said, in even quoted in the blurb on the cover, you might be familiar with the names of the people who participated in this book, but you'll be able to recognize all the shows they produced and directed.
Right.
And I think that's really true. I remember as a kid, before I even wanted to get in television, standing at a retail radio store near our house, and there was a whole group of neighbors standing in front of this window looking at a little 9-inch television screen on a chair or a pedestal, and there were test patterns and the Milton Berle show, and I remember that distinctly as a little kid, standing there and watching before our family could even afford a television set.
You watch those Milton Berle, highlights or shows, you can find them, and he really was a one-man show. I mean, he got into everybody's act. It was great.
Yeah, well, television, we go into the history of television itself, and when it all started, you have to remember that all the stars came out of vaudeville and radio, and little by little started creating their own stars over the years. But television as I knew it when I was doing these specials and so forth has dramatically changed, and I'm an optimist. I think with especially now with the internet, and there's a world of talent out there that never ever could have been discovered by the general public, but now with YouTubes and so forth, you can get millions of hits if you've got the talent and you put together something that has general appeal. And I think it's a great opportunity for young people. Even economically, everybody can afford to film on their iPhones, etc., and it's good enough quality to put on your computers, and I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, and I guess in a sense, YouTube is variety television of today, right? You pick what you want to watch, but it's there.
Yeah, and it's evolving. I think we've had a big run of the so-called, real-time reality shows, which really aren't, non-produced documentaries. They have producers, writers, directors, and so forth even doing them. But I think we're going through a cycle, and I think sooner or later, everything that goes around comes around, that old cliche and statement, and I believe it. I think that the big star series and so forth will eventually come back on television, but not in the old formats. They will have, for me, when I look at shows like The Voice, and I think that the biggest stars on those shows are the judges who are paid millions of dollars for sitting there making comments about, basically semi-professional or amateur acts getting their shot on television. And I'm thinking, there were shows like that in before television. Major Bowles' Amateur Hour was very successful. So now they just have the sophisticated technical equipment, which we also talk about in the book, that gives us much more opportunity with the shows that we do. But shows aren't, one of my next door neighbors where I live is John Dykstra, who won the Academy Award a few times for his work on the original Star Wars movie and special effects, and the Spider-Man movies and so forth. And John says, the one thing we both agree 100%, movies can't be just flashing lights and technical equipment and all these, special equipment hardware that they've invented and so forth. It's still got to have a story. It's still got to make an audience laugh, cry, react emotionally, or it's never going to, get across to the general public. And I think variety right now on television, it lacks the foreplay. It lacks the setups into the production number. So it's not just beautiful scenery and great lighting and good camera work and so forth. It's you've got to pay attention to those lyrics. You've got to tell a story, and the singers, their craft to become an Adele and become that famous so fast, you've got to have the chops to, not only write the material, but you've got to perform it so it reaches the soul of the listener or the viewer.
Oh.
And so I think the future is very bright. I think there are a lot more opportunities for people than when I started. There were only 3 networks. If you didn't get a job there was no place to go, basically. But I also think that right now, I love watching drama on television. I think some of the TV stuff, and especially the HBO and the Showtimes and so forth, outperform paying $10 to go to a movie theater and see a multi-million-dollar movie that, if it doesn't have the soul and it doesn't move you emotionally, there's some of the stuff on TV that's even better than going to the movies these days. So I think it's an exciting time. I'd like to be 20 years old again and start my career over again.
Well, it's a fascinating book. I know we have limited time, but I'd love to have you on again. Again, it's called Fade Up, 26, The Movers and Shakers of Variety Television. And Steve Binder has been our guest, the co-author with Mary Beth Liedman. And Steve, once you can give out the website, maybe people can get more information on the book.
Well, you can go to anyone. You can go to Amazon. You can go to Google. I mean, the book is now available everywhere.
Steve, hopefully we can do it again. Thanks for being with us, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Doug.
I'm Stan Brock. 30 years ago, I formed Remote Area Medical to help people overseas. But then we found generations of families in America isolated by poverty from the health care they need. Together, we can take dental, vision, and medical help to 1 million adults and their kids, right here at home in the United States of America.
If you'd like to order the book we're talking about, please go to DougMilesMedia.com and enter the author's name in the Amazon search box. Thank you for listening. Please come back soon for more conversations here at DougMilesMedia.com. This has been a presentation of Doug Miles Media, all rights reserved. You can listen to or download previous programs at iTunes, Stitcher.com, or